What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me, of course, Craig Mish. Craig, it's been too long. These weekly live streams, man, they're not enough. We're going to have to find more degenerate ways to spend our money.
Two live streams a week, really? In the off season of everything? Listen, you're going to get your wish because we're less than a month away from the NCAA tournament. We're closing in on it very soon from now. A month from now, we'll be talking about it. Can't wait for that to start. But for now, we're looking at a lot of the over-unders. We did win totals. We did home runs. And tonight, we're going to dive into something that's really far out there. Pitcher wins. They actually are taking significant wagers on pitcher wins. Now, how do I know this? Well, story for another day. But I will tell you this. At the Westgate right now, so you have to be in Las Vegas. Now, a lot of the online sites, even if you live where you can legally wager on FanDuel and DraftKings, some of them are available, some of them are not. But I will tell you this, that it looks like that the max bet on any of the win totals and the home run totals is 2,000. So that's the most that you can get down on any of these. Maybe that's a lot to some of you. It is. Maybe it's a little to some of you. I don't know. However you guys decide to do your wagering. But so any of these numbers that we're going over, anybody who says, oh, that's an easy $1 million, well, you can't do it. You can't get down on it. So the max is 2. But again, you can work around that. I guess get your friends to go or do some other things to get that in. But anyway, we're going to go over pitcher win totals tonight. One piece of advice, very important before we start this live stream. Super important with the win totals, Howard. If you're going to bet the over on a pitcher win total in 2020, my advice, Howard, as you know, would be to wait right before the season and then do it. Because why in the world would you bet an over on a player that could get hurt between now and the start of the season? You're going to end up losing this bet. Cole Hamels, Clevenger, maybe Severino at this point. Carlos Carrasco, maybe him at this point too. I mean, these are all actionable bets with win totals being posted. Mm-hmm. And imagine going to Las Vegas right now and putting down $50 or $100 on one of these. And then the next day you get home, you wake up, and then you see a guy's in a boot. Or you see the guy's having a forearm strain. Now, look, for the under, that's a little bit of a different story. You're kind of betting with injury on that one. That makes some sense. But if you're betting over, I got to tell you, with a pitcher, Howard, I don't know how you feel about it. I'm going to wait at least 3 weeks until I get down on one of these. Now, I did do one already because we felt like the number was going to move. We'll get to that in a sec, but it was a low number. But, if you're going to bet on, let's use Verlander as an example. Maybe that's a bad example. Let's use Scherzer as an example. Okay. Like, why do that now? Why not just wait? I mean, is the number going to go up 3 or 4 wins? No chance.
No, not at all. No, listen, it's great points. I feel the same way. I actually don't like betting wins totals because on the injury aspect alone,
sure,
is definitely huge. But on top of that, when you're sitting there, and you're talking about a time where you've got openers being used, a time that you've got pitch counts, innings
Absolutely.
limits, managers just not teams building their bullpen so that the pitcher doesn't have to go. And wins is just, overall in general, we know it's just a very arbitrary category anyway. We talk about that in fantasy all the time. A guy will pitch a fantastic game. He'll throw 8 shutout innings. The closer comes in, blows it for him, and there goes the win. So,
Absolutely.
It's that aspect of it, and also the added injury aspect that really kind of keeps me, if I'm going to see him, it's got to be somebody who I think the number's too high, and then I'll bet the low. I'll bet the under on that.
Yeah, and we'll go over these tonight. And look, it's that time of the year where, unless we're doing individual things on college basketball, and I'm really honestly not that strong with the NBA, to keep it transparent with that. I don't really get involved heavily in the NBA. I think a lot of people know me for baseball being my thing as well. So even though wins are very hard to quantify, there's no doubt. Look, they're actionable bets that you can make right now, some online, mostly in Las Vegas. And let's be honest, would you rather take $50 or $100 and put it on one of these where we can give you an educated opinion, or put it on an XFL game? So I mean, for me, this makes a
really,
lot more
XFL,
sense.
that's the comparison.
That's
you
as
have
low.
to
That's
make.
the low bar that I have to set
It's a
here. Like
really low
literally.
bar. I kind of feel like you're trying to push my buttons with the whole XFL thing.
Well,
But
I am so proud of you the way that you have clapped back at these people on the XFL this season. It has been very impressive. As one of the, I mean, least exciting things I've ever witnessed on television. Just such poor play. But anyway, so let's kind of dive into some of these win totals. We'll give you our opinions on these. We're going to start at the top, go to the bottom. One thing that has changed significantly through the years, as Howard mentioned, openers, injuries, everything else. No pitcher with a win total of 20 wins on the season. That doesn't exist anymore. Getting to 20 wins is a huge accomplishment now in baseball. Getting to 19 wins is a huge accomplishment.
the prop is 20.5 for any pitcher. Any pitcher, 20.5 is the prop.
That's incredible. Think about that.
One person did it last year. Was it one win?
That's it. So years ago, when you had these props, and you had Roy Halladay and Johan Santana and Pedro Martinez, and when these existed, and they didn't come out until late March, by the way, yeah, I mean, you had props of those guys potentially at 17, 18, 16.5. The highest individual win prop for any pitcher, Howard, is who? Tough guess this year. It's the easiest one on the board.
The highest one?
Yes.
Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole, of course, with the Yankees.
Easily.
So we'll start off with him. 15.5 is his number this year. There's no question that if there's anyone that you would bet on winning 20 games, it would be him. Plays with a great offense, clearly. Plays with a great bullpen, clearly. Has not had, I don't think, virtually any injury history whatsoever over the course of his career. The only thing that you would play against it is there a difference going from Houston to New York? I don't see there being a huge difference. He still gets games against Baltimore, some against Toronto, and a Boston team that potentially isn't really as good. I usually don't get involved in any of these. If I had to lean any certain way with Cole, it would probably be over, because I do think that he's in store for a big season with New York, and he's getting paid like it too. But this is one that I would pass on, 15.5.
Yeah, again, there's a lot I'm not going to touch with that, especially. I don't mean to bring in the whole Astro situation right now, but I mean, if you looked at the numbers at guys like Cole and guys like Verlander, Verlander resurrected his career going to Houston. Cole went from like here in Pittsburgh to here once he went to Houston. Now he comes to Yankee Stadium. You're pitching on a bigger stage. It's very interesting to me. It's also, a lot more hitter friendly in the AL East. So I've got some concerns for him. I won't touch it. Maybe that's just me actually just growing up a Yankee fan to always be skeptical of the big money pitcher coming in and suddenly dominating. So I'm a no bet on this one. I understand the over just simply for the fact that it's the Yankees and the run support that he's going to get. But, new pitchers moving to Yankee Stadium on big contracts always scare me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about this one either, but the Yankees bullpen, arguably probably a top 3 bullpen, I would say, in all of Major League Baseball. Easily. So does that make it more conducive for Cole to win games because they'll be up in games and the bullpen would hold it? Or is it less conducive because if he gets to the 6th inning and the score is close or tied, they would bring in the bullpen to save the game at the end? It's kind of double-edged there, I think, on that one, because they could go both ways. I mean, you would think the better half of it is that the Yankees are up 3-1 in the 7th. Cole comes out 7th, 8th, 9th. They bring in 3 great pitchers to close it out. But at the same time, do they pull the trigger early on some of their pitchers too, like they did on Tanaka the last couple of years?
Well, that's the thing. It's also a concern that you have to worry about. Does they have to? Does Aaron Boone have to manage that bullpen in the sense of? I need Cole to go out and get me 7 innings, regardless of what he's doing.
If Severino's down, that's a good
so
point.
Severino's down. Herman is suspended, so there's a lot of question marks in that back end of that rotation. So maybe he does say that he needs to save the bullpen for that, but
could be.
Again, there's too much risk for me personally on that one. I'd rather throw it onto a Scherzer.
Okay, well, we'll move down to the 14.5. And there were only 2 pitchers, believe it or not. We're already down to 14.5 wins for the season. Feels low with all these totals, but this is the reality of the game.
Yeah.
Scherzer, 14.5. Verlander, 14.5. Look, Scherzer, if he makes 30 starts, Howard, he's going over this number. You can't even get him out of the game. He's not going to come out. It's all about health with him. Washington, ironically, is handling this completely different than what Boston did last year. And I've talked about this on my other show. Do you remember, Howard, the conversations we were having at this time? Oh, JD Martinez not going to play because he just came off the World Series. They're going to take it easy with Mookie Betts. We're not going to pitch Chris Sale at all in the spring. We're not going to pitch David Price. Max Scherzer is starting Saturday night in the Nationals' first preseason game. When you're seeing all these reports about the fourth and fifth starters around the league making their starts in the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League, Scherzer is starting their first game on Saturday night. I think I'll be there. I love that. I mean, I love to see that, and this guy just wants to be the first guy on the mound defending the World Series in any way possible, defending it in spring, defending it in the regular season. So another lean on the over there for me. Verlander, I just think that there's too many distractions. I have no idea.
Way too many distractions.
Look, Verlander could be a man on a mission and have the best year of his life. This could be hard for him. I really don't know.
The only temptation for me is the under, that he just gets fed up with everything that's going on and he drills somebody, and, Manfred tries to take a stand and says, you know what, 20 games, do something to that effect.
I mean, look, there's also eventually going to be, like with every pitcher, a fall off. If we were having the same conversation and doing win totals 3 years ago, and we were looking at the top win totals, Felix Hernandez would have been 14. He would have been right in this category. And then it just boom, 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 done. That's the way baseball is that, especially with pitchers, once they hit that magic age, 35, 36, 37, it starts to go south. So, I'm just a no opinion at all on Verlander, and my opinion on Scherzer would be another over. Okay, so let's move on. There's only one pitcher at 13.5. That's Jack Flaherty of the St. Louis Cardinals. Probably baseball's best pitcher from June on last year. Another candidate for opening day, Howard. So that means a lot of starts, right? Starting at the beginning of the season, It's going to get him some 100%. Extra starts too. The Cardinals offense, I don't know how many runs they're going to be scoring behind him. Doesn't seem optimal. Carpenter coming off a down year. Goldschmidt coming off a down second half. Left field a little bit uncertain with them too. Right field certainly uncertain. I think Flaherty could end up having the kind of year DeGrom had a couple of years ago, where not many wins, but a great result in terms of ERA and WHIP. And by the way, when he comes out of the game, who's closing games for them this year? I'm not really sure. Another pass for me with Flaherty. I like all the other stats, ERA, WHIP, but I don't know that he gets the wins.
Love it. I'm a huge fan. Again, I'm with you 100% as far as the wins go. I actually might lean on the under here only because I could see 12, 13 wins, great ratios. There's not a lot of firepower. I mean, you just went around the diamond talking about who's where. How many times is Goldschmidt going to walk this week? That's why I was kind of down on him as far as his home run prop. There's no reason to pitch to him. So, when you sit there and you look at the lack of run support that could happen for Flaherty, that's why I might tilt on the under. Again, yes, it's a no bet for me, but, the under is my lean.
Yeah, and again, there's no – the thing with the Cardinals last few years, they've had some really good bullpen pieces that they've just kind of pieced together. Mm-hmm. And, Gallegos is good, but how good is he? Is he really a closer there? Gant, who was fantastic in the early part of the year, wasn't even part of their postseason roster. I'm not in love with the way that the Cardinals are trending right now, unfortunately. So my lean, again, would be under toward him. Aaron Nola in the 12.5 range, Corey Kluber in the 12.5 range, and Jacob deGrom in the 12.5 range. And if you're like, wait a second, how is Jacob deGrom 12.5? And so is Nola, and so is Kluber. Well, deGrom just has a hard time winning games on that team, man. This is 2 years in a row. 2 years ago, they didn't score runs for him. Last year, Edwin Diaz was blowing all the saves for him. And so, you can make the argument DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball, but yet his wins, Howard, are projected 3 less than Cole's.
Yeah. Listen, Felix Hernandez won the Cy Young with 13 wins. DeGrom doing the same thing. I think it's a good number to have on DeGrom, because I do like the Mets a little bit better this year than I did last year. So, and I kind of like Edwin Diaz a little better this year. So,
me too.
So DeGrom, I actually, just based on his talent level, I would tilt on the over. Nola, I think Philly puts it together. I really do. I think I've got a good feeling about the way that the Phillies are built. Rhys Hoskins had a terrible year last year, down year for him. I think he rebounds. I think Nola got off to a terrible start last year. And I think that's why his
rough.
Yeah, that's why his numbers were as bad as they were. Just overall, but look at how good his second half was. And I think, so I think that, another year of him and JT Realmuto and Rhys Hoskins and Bryce Harper and all that, craziness that was, really just pounding down on the Phillies last year, I think helps. I like Nola a lot for this year. I'll definitely take the over on that for him.
Yeah,
but I won't bet it until the.
Of course, yeah. Girardi will be good for Nola also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My only concern with Nola is a similar one with St. Louis, but even worse. I got to tell you, the Phillies may have the best team, worst bullpen in the majors. Like, I don't know what they're thinking going into this year with the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. They are really going to have to get some bounce back performances from Sir Anthony Dominguez and some of these other guys, hoping that they're healthy, because it was just a disaster for them all of last year. So Kluber 12.5. I mean, do we really know what that park is going to be? I'm not sure. I would lean under. I mean, he was hurt last year, but was it his fault? He got shattered by a line drive.
But he's like a nightmare in the month of April anyway.
His performance wasn't that good when he was healthy last year either. So I'd lean under. Okay, also 12.5, Howard Kershaw at 12.5, the lowest number probably of his career. And Patrick Corbin is also at 12.5. How do you feel about those two?
Listen, for Kershaw, I would lean on the over. I understand that he's got the back issues and what it's been for the last 2 seasons. I also think that the Dodgers are built for bigger games this year. I think they're really, you want to talk about going all in. I'm all in. Get me Mookie Betts. Get me the rest of this. So, listen, I think, I think he'll end up with some decent wins, whether his ratios are, Kershaw-esque, a little different nowadays for him. But, I mean, this is a matter of me believing that if his back does act up on him, or they manage it better, I think that it's going to be limited time off this season for him. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, look, he won 16 games last year. He made 29 starts. People, dub him as injury prone, but I mean, really, how many starts did he miss on the year? 1, 2. The year before he made 26 starts, he only won 9 games.
Exactly.
But provided that he gets close to that number again, I think that he will go over it. So I think that there's, certainly a chance of that. Look, Patrick Corbin's on a really good team too, Howard. Like that's a solid team in Washington. So we could have 3 guys, him, Strasburg, and Scherzer, all winning 15-plus games. That's certainly a possibility. Blake Snell's number is at 11.5. So let's now turn to the Cy Young Award winner of 2 years ago. Had injury issues last year. I mean, which Snell are we getting? Are we getting last year's or 2 years ago?
You know what? And for that, it's a no bet for me at all. I mean, if he comes out and he pitches as poorly as he did last year, then we're looking at an opener. We are looking at innings caps. We are looking at them handling him differently. He's not Charlie Morton where he's just going to go out and throw 6 innings, rain or shine. And either it's going to be good or it's going to be terrible. His bad has been really bad. So I kind of feel like, I just don't want to touch it with the Rays and how they're going to handle him and not knowing really which guy you're going to get.
Sure. Okay, Brandon Woodruff, we can move down to him, and then we'll knock out a few more for you guys here tonight. Woodruff's is 10.5, Shane Bieber 11.5. We'll get to Bieber in a second. Woodruff, Howard, last year, and I mean, the general thing that people are just doing is when they're drafting Woodruff in fantasy and when they're discussing him is simply extrapolating the numbers from last year, making the assumption, okay, he's going to go from 120 innings to 150 or 160. He's going to go from 22 starts to 27 starts. He won 11 games last year. He only lost 3, 10 strikeouts per 9, made the All-Star team. And you know what, Howard? If he makes 30 starts, this is probably an easy over. But is that going to happen? Are his innings going to go from 120 to 150 or 160? I feel uncomfortable predicting innings and predicting success that has never happened before and just simply saying it's guaranteed to happen. I can't do that. As we get into some of the lower win totals, it's easier for me to do that because what are you really betting on? You're betting on not as much predictability, not as much wins. But here you're being asked to go over 10.5 on Woodruff.
Yeah, that's the thing. He is getting a ton of buzz. You know what I find funny is I would be more inclined to go with the over if he were like 23, 24 years old. Like if like all of a sudden, you're looking at him and it's his third season and you're like, oh, he could probably, pitch through this and it'd be great. You look at his numbers, innings wise, and he's never done it. Like he's never been,
sure,
a heavy inning guy. And I worry that, he's a guy who limits. I mean, we know how they love doing their bullpen in Milwaukee. But I mean, I think, as a 27-year-old, I think if he had that dominant of stuff, then we would have seen him earlier. Like, why haven't we seen him earlier?
Yeah, he's had injury issues.
Well, so yeah, I'm going to put an over on that.
I would not. Guy. I would not as well. I would go under. So now here's an interesting one because Shane Bieber is at 11.5. And I think that if you're thinking of an over, there's really a lot to like here. He threw 214 innings last year. He won 15 games last year, struck out 259 batters, finished fourth in the Cy Young Award, and basically went from 114 innings to 214 innings. Every single prognostication has him winning more than 11.5 games. And if the concern is, well, Shane Bieber is not the number one there, that's Clevenger, not the number two there, that's Carrasco, wasn't the number three there, that was Kluber. I mean, Shane Bieber could be the opening day starter for the Indians at this point. And look, there
should be the opening day starter. He is.
He's got to be. Yeah.
Clevenger's going to miss the first month, and then Carrasco with the leg. Yeah. Got the leg issue right now. We know he's got the blood disorder. Oh, listen, I love this 11.5 on Bieber. I'll take the over. Be over. Yeah, it's got to be the over.
Yeah, it's got to be.
And this is one. This is actually one that I would actually bet now. Only because I think that this number could go up based on what we hear about Carrasco. We still haven't gotten news on him yet. It's exactly what it is. If he's out longer, that bumps Bieber up in that pecking order more.
Well, it gives him more starts for sure. It's more of a factor from the fifth starter to the third. But look, as you said, going into the year, at the very worst, Bieber was going to be their number 2 or number 3, just depending on how you feel about Carlos Carrasco. So, I mean, look, there's so many of these pitchers that we could go through and we could spend hours doing it, but I wanted to close it out with a couple of the ones that I really like and one that I will bet on for sure this year. My favorite one of the bunch, Howard, is Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a little while now.
Just a shockingly low number for me at 7.5 wins. I don't buy any idea that he's not going to be in the rotation. And when I see the pitchers who are ahead of him, you have Madison Bumgarner from the left side. You have Robbie Ray from the left side. I mean, they're not going to throw lefties back to back. So assuming Bumgarner starts opening day, I think there's a good chance Zach Gallen is going to start the second game of the season for the Diamondbacks. I saw him pitch in Miami last year. I was told by people in the organization that maybe he was their very best pitcher. I understand what Miami did. They wanted a shortstop in the future, so they traded for one they think is one in Jazz Chisholm. But if Zach Gallen makes 30 starts, this is flying over 7.5 wins. I think this is just way too low, and this is my favorite one of the season in terms of the win totals.
Good talent for him. Strong run support from the Diamondbacks. Good solid bullpen. To maintain. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I love that. I love that one.
Yeah. My favorite on the under on the lower numbers is Marco Gonzalez. I know that 8.5 doesn't seem high.
Mean. Poor Seattle.
I mean, but Seattle, like, who is their bullpen? Like, who's getting outs for them? Who's scoring runs for them?
Stop! They're already dead. Leave them alone.
Do you think Marco Gonzalez wins 9 games?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't see that.
And they just signed him to a 3-year deal, so it's not like you can say, like a Caleb Smith, you can't say, well, he's going to end up getting traded to a contender and he's going to make more starts and he's going to be used there. You can't say that about Marco Gonzalez. That he's sitting at like 6 wins and then he gets dealt.
No. And look, and he's been a phenomenally durable player. And gets deep into games, which is why he won so many games last year. But Seattle's bullpen was actually pretty good last year, and I don't see a repeat of that happening. And I think a massive pullback on Gonzalez is coming this year. And then the final one, a lot of people are betting. This is one of the most popular over bets that we can close it out, and I'll ask you about this one. But I like Gallen a lot more at 7.5, Howard, than I do at Chris Paddock at 8.5. But that is the most popular bet right now out there. Look, a lot of people think San Diego is going to be much better. You go around their diamond, they do look phenomenal. They've added good bullpen pieces. Pomeranz now could come in the 6th, 7th inning. They did not baby Paddock last year. They let him go right up until the end of the year. He's got dynamic stuff, maybe stuff-wise, top 5 in the National League. I think that's fair to say, too.
Yeah.
But the total, it feels low, but I don't know. I can't pull the trigger on this one. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I mean, that's more gut feel than anything, because if you talk about the fact that how talented he is, 9 wins last year at 140 innings, and he looked great. He really did. He looked, he hit like a little bit of a hiccup. He
looked fantastic. I agree.
So, I mean, I think that's that is that your gut telling you, you just don't trust it, in the sense that, how many times have we seen the next coming of a super ace, and it just doesn't deliver?
Maybe that's part of it, but they set these numbers for a reason, and certainly everybody can't go over. And I think, honestly, the reason why some of these numbers are so low, it's pretty obvious. Look what we've seen in the last few weeks. I gave you the names already: Severino, Hamels, Clevenger, just to start with, right? Maybe Carrasco's the 4th. How can Vegas make these totals high? Like, I mean, they're making them so low because, I mean, obviously a lot of these are going to go under because pitchers are going to get hurt. It happens every single year, and guys just don't even make 35 starts anymore. So when you look at the numbers, and they're so scary, and everyone's going to want to go over, but the scariest part of this is all the names we mentioned: Cole, Scherzer, Verlander, Flaherty, Nola, Kluber, DeGrom, Snell, Kershaw, Corbin, Bieber, Woodruff. We went through 11 guys I kind of picked randomly around tonight. Out of those 11, no one wants to hear this. 2 or 3 are going to be really hurt this year and are going to miss the year.
Oh, yeah.
Every year it happens. And I know it's hard to say, and you never want to predict that sort of stuff, but that's just a fact with baseball.
We watch it. It happens every single year. Question: when Paddock was inside the Marlins system, did you watch him at all?
No, no, nobody did. He was very young, and he was hurt. Yeah. So he was hurt. He had Tommy John surgery. Missed like 1.5 years, too. You know who they traded him for? You don't remember that trade? No.
I don't remember that deal.
They traded him for Fernando Rodney. For 2 months of Fernando Rodney. Yeah. So, again, I know that's a tasty one. A lot of people are betting that. That's what I've gotten the most questions about. Like, how is Paddock only 8.5? I'm like, well, what about Zach Gallen? Zach Gallen's only 7.5. I like that team better. I like that bullpen probably better. I definitely like their yeah. So, I mean, that one I just like more. So, in closing, I'm in on the over already with 7.5 wins on Gallen. I'm in on the under 8.5 wins for Marco Gonzalez. Clearly interesting one on Paddock. I think Howard and I both agree on Bieber for sure. I think that could be the strongest one that we both agree on the other ones. Over 11.5?
We're definitely strong on that. I think we were both pretty strong on DeGrom going over the 12.5 as well.
Yeah.
Or I was. I don't know. Maybe you
were. I don't know. It's just like, how many years in a row can this keep happening to DeGrom? Is this finally the year that he wins like 18 games?
Is it?
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, how many?
More confident in Zach Gallen being a 9-game winner than I do Jacob DeGrom being a 15-game winner for the Mets.
Listen. Jacob DeGrom won 21 games combined in the last 2 years.
Ooh. On that little zinger, we're going to say goodnight. We're going to thank Matt Sells, our producer, for always doing such great work. Craig Mish and I'm going to drag Craig back here next week. I don't know what for, but it's going to be good. I'm telling you. We're going to, that's going to do it for us here. Thanks for tuning into the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll catch you next time.